Hello everybody, welcome back to Simple Art for Adults. My name is Erin and we are back with Nice Little Town 5. We're going to do some more coloring today, and I think we're going to move away from our neutral colors and bring in some of our brighter ones that are part of our color palette. So I thought what we would do is I will start off with the palette itself, and I do have some new lighting up here, and I am really trying to avoid as much of the glare as I possibly can. Let me get this thing to turn on here. Alright, so this is the palette that we're working with. So we've kind of got these colors, these bottom ones in. So now we need to start working with the top ones. And I like this little teal color here. So I think that's what we're going to work with, is like the aquamarine teal. So if we go into the Polychromos, about the closest colors that I'm going to be able to find to that is going to be this cobalt green. So I thought what we could do here is we would do these three colors right in a row, because they're going to pretty much match what is in the palette. Let me see if I can get these up here a little bit closer and show them to you. So we've got the cobalt, or the light cobalt turquoise, the cobalt green, and the helio turquoise. And these three colors should go with each other pretty well. So I think that's what we're going to do. And we're going to use those colors in some of our like accents in this picture. So let me find them. Hopefully we've got the microphone that's actually working this time. We shall see. Alright, let's find these colors. So I've got light cobalt, helio, and that's cobalt turquoise. We don't want that. We want the green. Cobalt green. There we go. That should work. Turn off my tablet screen here so it doesn't die. This button's picky. It doesn't like anything. So I hope everybody's having a good day so far. It is Thursday early evening here in Kentucky. It's about 7 o'clock. You guys will probably be seeing this either late Thursday night or early Friday. Depends on how long it takes me to get everything uploaded and ready for you all. So this is where we are in the picture. I'm hoping that this looks as nice on your screens, whatever you're watching on, as it looks on my camera. I have completely changed my camera app. I have changed my lighting. So hopefully we're going to have a lot less shadows happening here. And I can actually control the zoom without having to reach up and wiggle the phone. So that should be pretty nice too, I hope. Alright, so we can zoom in like this, which is really, really nifty. And I'm going to sharpen up these pencils, and we're going to get to work on some of these curtains and things. And we're going to color like the curtains and the rug. We're going to color all of this in these three colors as soon as I just get my pencil sharpened. So hopefully we'll get through all these little accessories today. I color slowly, so you know me, my color alongs are going to last 500 years. And I realize that we haven't done these leaves yet either, but we will. We'll get to those. Alright. So I'm going to start with my lightest color, which is the cobalt turquoise. And I'm going to put that right down here. Let me see if I can zoom you in just a little bit more so you can see a little more clearly what I'm doing. Apparently I somehow clicked off the video. I'm not sure how that happened, but we will get it eventually. This is a learning curve for both of us here. So I am going to put the turquoise very, very lightly, the lightest color, over the entire curtain. And like I said before, I do this with my first layer just to see if I like the way the colors are going to work together and to kind of put them where I want them. So that is the goal. And then we're going to take cobalt green, which is this lovely color here, if my camera will focus in on it without blinding you. And we're going to kind of put that's going to be our main color. So that's going to kind of wrap around, and we're just going to have an area of the lightest color right in the center. So kind of like that. So we're going to have just this little area here that's going to be left. Let me try to turn this light on too and see if this will help the situation some. There you go. Now you can actually see the colors. I have more lights. I have like all the lights. Hopefully I just didn't flash you guys to death. So we're just going to leave like this little section here, the lightest color, and I'm going around with the medium color. And then we're going to take the darkest color, which is a really, really dark color. This is the Helio Turquoise, which is number 155 in the Polychromos set. And we're going to put that around the very, very edge where it tucks away back into the little mushroom and we can't see it. That's the only place we're going to put it. So I'm just going to kind of trace the outline of the window with it all around the curtain, and then just very, very lightly bring it up a little bit, because that's going to make it easier for me to blend it into the cobalt green. Just like that. Now I'm going to come back with cobalt green, blend that out toward the middle, and then I'm going to take my lightest color one more time, and we're going to blend all of it together. And then my last step for me, because I do not like when the tooth of the paper shows through, I'm going to take my Prismacolor colorless blender. I'm going to go over the entire area just to kind of finish blending all the colors together, cover the tooth of the paper up, and make it look nice and smooth. And that looks pretty close, I think, to the color that is in our color palette. So we're just going to continue with that and put it on all the curtains, put it down on the rug down the bottom. And I'm going to keep following the same process. We're going to do the lightest color first, then the medium color, then the darkest color where we would be in shadow, then blend it all out. So that's pretty much the same thing we're going to do with every element that is going to be the green color. Although it's more blue than green to me. As I get older, I think that maybe I may have like a touch of color blindness, because sometimes I see things as green and people are like, no, that's brown. And so that's like a really bad thing to have in this hobby, I think. But we'll see what happens. So this may very well look more green than blue, and I just don't see it. So this is the darkest color, and I'm just kind of drawing an outline around the window and very, very lightly pulling it out so that when I go back in with the cobalt green, it blends it out. I'm going in like small ovals here because it helps to mix the colors up. Alright, and then one more time with the lightest color. And the same idea here, we're just going to go in light circles. We're going to go over everywhere except for the very, very edge, because I don't really want to, the Polychromos are pretty transparent, translucent. Nonetheless, they will kind of cover up your darker colors, and I don't want to do that. I want the darker color to stay dark. And then finally with the blender, we're just going to come in, smush everything together. Cover up all the white space in the paper. And that's that. Alright. So we've got that curtain done. So now we have another curtain like right here. Oh, right there. Watch the book, not the screen, silly. So same principle. I am just going to put the very lightest color very lightly. My goodness, you guys are probably going to be able to hear the filters for the aquariums in the background. They are so loud because they evaporate. The water evaporates out of them. No matter, you know, what we do, we get some evaporation. And as the water level drops, the water coming out of the filter gets louder and louder and louder. So I just realized right now I'm sitting here with one earbud in and one earbud out how loud it really is. And it's pretty loud. So the same thing here. Light color and then medium color around the edges here. And then the darkest color around the very, very edges. So I'll just draw the outline around the curtain. Pull it out with a light hand, just a little, not too much, because this is a really skinny curtain, so if we're not careful, we're going to have nothing but this helio, and we don't want that. That would be way too dark. Alright, and then down along this edge. And then just this little area right here at the bottom. And that should have it. Now in this case, we can put a little bit all the way down through here too, because these are overlapping each other. So we kind of want to give the impression that there's some shadow there, those overlapping each other. Now I'm going to come back in with my middle color, and we're going to blend out the edge of that helio turquoise, or whatever color that's called. What is that called? Helio turquoise. Hey, I actually did a pretty good job of remembering something. Just barely over this little line that we put there, just so it's not so harsh. I think it takes some time just to get used to the Polychromos, and you know, I've had mine for over a year now, and I am still, because I'm a Prismacolor girl, we all know this, I'm still not used to the Polychromos. It really takes some time to get used to how they're different, especially if you have used one pencil and you've loved one pencil for your entire coloring journey. It's hard to get used to something else. But there are times when the Polychromos are, you know, really the best option. And for me, when I'm coloring on Create Space paper, they do a lot better job than the Prismacolors. And they don't irritate me as much as the Prismacolors do on this paper, which is why I use them. So now, there's another curtain done. So now we'll move down and we will get this curtain here. Same thing. Now this one's going to be a little bit different because of the way the window's cut. But we're going to kind of follow the same idea, just not quite as boldly. And I'll show you what I mean. Because if we follow the same idea and we do it the exact same way, it's going to look like we have modeled curtains, and we don't want that to happen. We want our curtains to look, I don't know, not necessarily realistic, but not modeled either. Alright, so let me sharpen this pencil and get it just as sharp as I possibly can. So I've put the lightest color down, the light turquoise. I've put it down everywhere that I can. Now I'm going to come in, I'm going to follow the same idea. I'm going to put my middle color around the very edges of the window like this. Just on the outside right now. I'm going to pull it out. Lighter as you get toward the center of the curtain, darker along the edge. But make sure you save some room for that dark color too, because we still have to put that in there and we can't smash the tooth down. So we're using a light pressure still. Here at the top, we're bringing that in too. Okay, so now rather than going in and like doing all of this, like filling in this whole section, I'm going to do just a tiny, like I'm just going to trace. I'm just basically going to trace very lightly where all the other window openings are. Because if I put too much color there, it's not going to look right. And you're definitely going to be able to see. My kids keep slamming doors, guys. I'm sorry. Alright, you're definitely going to be able to see all those lines, and we don't want it to show too much, because this whole section up here isn't going to be dark. There's going to be lighter spots up there, and if we do it the same way, we won't have any room to put the lighter spots. Alright, so now I'm going to come in with the very darkest color, and we're going to do the same thing first. Outline the edge. Put just a small amount, because these are small little areas. We don't want to completely cover up our middle color. So just a little bit. Up here to the top. Basically just outlining, and then kind of very, very lightly going over it to pull the color out toward the middle just a little bit. Okay, and then I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to put the darker color anywhere else except for where I've just put it. Just like that. Okay, then I'm coming back with middle again. We're going to go lightly over that darker color. Just to blend it out a little bit. We don't want a harsh line there. And this will also help us darken up the main color, which is the cobalt green. Alright, and then finally one more time with the lighter color. And we're just going to fill it in. Now if you're not using a blender pencil, you may want to get a nice sharp pencil and kind of burnish at this point so you can get rid of your white space. You don't have to. If you don't mind the white space, you can just leave it the way it looks. Or if you're like me and you don't want to waste your pigment or your pencils, or you don't want to sharpen your pencils every 5 seconds, go with a blender pencil. This does such a good job in these books of just filling in all the white space and giving it like a smooth. And you know, even with this, you're not going to get it completely smooth. It's just not going to happen. It just, at this point, I'm getting it smooth enough that I can tolerate it. There we go. And then we have that one all finished. Let me grab my little makeup brush and brush that away. So now that one's all finished. So what else do we have? We can do this planter in that color and make that look nice. So here's another opportunity for me to show you how to make an object look a little bit rounded, if I can make it happen. I'm going to start with the lightest color. Put it all over, even on the back. Okay, now we're going to take the middle color. And the trick to this is kind of following the shape. You don't want to like come at it straight. You kind of want to follow the shape of the object, and you want it darker around the outside edge and lighter as you come toward the middle. So I'm not like going in ovals here. I'm basically doing very, very light strokes, and I'm lightening them up as I come toward the center. I'm going to go along the bottom because that's definitely going to be a little bit darker, and then this area here in the center is going to be darker still. This is all just creating an illusion, just like that. And then we're going to take our darkest color, and we're first, okay, so with this, and I know this is going to be hard to see because if I zoom in much more, it's going to get blurry. But do you see how like there's this opening up here, and you have these dark lines that don't go all the way through the opening? So here's a trick. If you really want to make it look like it's an open, you just take your dark color, and you don't color the entire opening. You just do like the top half of it. And we'll come back in with, when we come back in with that cobalt green, we'll kind of smish it together and blend it out. And that'll make it look a little more rounded. So we want to leave like this little part right here in the middle lighter than the rest of it. And that'll make it look like it's an actual opening. So the same thing here, I'm going to take this color, the darkest one, and just very lightly along the edge. And we don't need much, guys. We don't need much, just a little bit. Just like that. And then down here along the bottom. Then I'm going to come back in with the middle color. I'm going to bring that out a little bit more. I'm just doing strokes here. We're going to pull it out. And we're going to leave like a little stripe here in the middle. And that's going to be like the shiny part. That's going to make it look, create the illusion that it's round. So then with the light color, come back in, do your strokes, and kind of try to follow the shape of the object that's round. And then we're going to take the cobalt green, we're going to come up here and fill this in. And we're also going to go around the top edge with it. Now if you really want to, you can come in with like a white gel pen or a Posca, and in the very, very back you can put like a little white mark, which will make it look shiny, but it's not necessary. Alright, and then I'm going to take my blender and I'm going to go up and down with it all the way across. And then brush away the powder. And then we should have the little container that, thanks to just that little spot there in the center, it's going to make it look pretty round. Now if you think yours doesn't look round enough, you can come back in even after you've blended it out and add a little bit more of the darker colors. As long as you haven't completely burnished your paper, you can come back in. This is a wonderful thing about the Polychromos, guys. You can come back in and just keep adding and just keep adding. And then it looks even rounder. And the shine, you basically made the shine expand by putting the darker colors in. Alright, so we have one more curtain, which is up here. There we go. Found it. So this one's a little bit different, so we can have a little bit of fun with it, and you can color yours however you want. What I'm going to do is I'm going to color this part here first. And I'm going to do it like we've done all the others. Light color. Main color, which is the medium color. And then dark color, which is our shade. Just like so. Back with the medium color one more time to blend the shadow color out. And then finally back with the lightest color. Okay, now you have options. You can do these little ruffles any color you want. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to block color them in our cobalt green, which is our main color here. I'm just going to color them in. That's it. And it'll be fine because these areas are so very small. If you want to try to put some shadows in there, go for it. I'm not going to. They're very, very tiny. And this paper, it makes it so weird trying to get into those little tiny spaces. Okay, now in order to blend them out, though, I'm going to have to sharpen my blender pencil. So I'm going to do that. Broke the tip off. What do you know? It's a Prismacolor. And there is that. Alright, so now we're going to put some of this color down here in the rug. So, what I'm going to do for sure is this outside edge. So I'm going to start with that. We're going to do that outside edge. And just with the side of the pencil, go very, very lightly with the lightest color first. We'll probably end up bringing some of these blue colors into the sky as well, just so we can get more of it in there. Don't worry about it being perfect here, guys. It's not necessary, not at all. Alright, what else do we have here? Okay, so this pattern kind of looks like there's a pattern and then there's blank spaces in the middle. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to color in the zigzag pattern. And I may color in the rest of the pattern with this color too, but I'm not 100% certain. Okay, alright, so the zigzag is back here. I'm trying to look at the other side and figure out what is going where. Yeah, and then we have these other little patterns in the center. I'm not really sure how I'm going to do those yet. We'll see what this looks like when we get this color in. And I'm taking my cobalt green, and I'm going to kind of come around the edges. Again, just kind of with the side of the pencil. then where her little mousy hand is. I think I'm gonna just do a gradation like this and have the lightest part right there by the center of the rug. So what I'm doing is very, very light on the outside and then a little bit darker as I come out toward the edge. And don't worry if it's not 100% like even right now, because we'll straighten it out in a little bit. So basically you want this part darker and this part lighter, because that's going to make your blending easier. You could even do like a really light touch all the way around it. Just don't put any color like on this side right here. And then you could just use a really, really light touch all over the rest of the rug like this. So we'll do it this way because this makes it easier. So we'll just put a light layer of color all over the whole entire thing, except for this part that's closest to the pattern. This is kind of the cheater's method if you have a hard time controlling your pressure. All right, so that's done. Now we're going to come back and do it again, but we're not going to carry it out the whole entire way. Very, very light pressure. And we're not going to take it to the end. We're just going to take it about halfway. And then one more time, but we're just going to do like the very edge this time. Still very light pressure. This way you can use the same pressure doing the whole entire thing, but you still get that gradation from dark to light with your color. This is awkward trying to get my hand in here correctly without moving the book all over the place. And I have turned it slightly, so I don't want to turn it like completely upside down. Alright, so now that that color is in, I'm going to take the darkest color, which is the helio turquoise, and I'm going to come just around the very, very edges. I'm going to pull it out slightly, not very much at all, because this is just going to help us get that gradation that we want, nothing else. Now we could get all technical with it and try to put a shadow over here behind her, but that's a little more advanced than I would want to try at this point, even me. So I'm sure that there's lots of you out there who could do it and do a great job. I'm not one of those people. Alrighty. This part I don't think I got it dark enough, so I'm going to do it just a little bit more. We want to be able to see. There's a darker color there, but we want it to blend in. I don't want harsh lines. Alright, that's better. Alright, and then we're going to come back in with the cobalt green, and we're going to go right over that. And we're going to bring it out a little bit, lightening your pressure as you come toward the middle. Now here's a trick too. If you guys are using a blender, you don't even have to come back in here with the lightest color again. You can just use your blender, start on the dark side, and blend toward the center, and it will automatically pull that color along for you, which is kind of neat. If you guys ever watch Julie's Passion for Coloring, Julie does that all the time with the Prismacolors, especially when she wants a gradation from the dark version of a color out to the lighter version, or even into the white paper. She just won't put any color there, and she'll use her blender pencil to make it happen, which is really cool. So you can do that same thing here, and I'm going to kind of try to attempt something like it. I am going to put a little bit more of the light turquoise in here, but I'm going to put it very, very lightly. And then I'm going to come back in with my blender pencil. Can't decide what color I'm going to make the mouse. because this is, I was going to say brown, but then we've got this tree over here. And I'm afraid we'll have like so much brown just piled over here on this side of the page, and I don't really want to do that. So we may end up making her like gray. A nice pretty warm gray. Okay, almost. And then I'm going to come back in with my blender pencil and blend it all out toward the center. So start up here. I'm just going to use a circular motion and push the color toward the middle. Now, if you want to, bear with me. You can turn your book around like this, all right? And then you can just use an up and down motion. Like an up and down slash semicircular slash motion. And that will push all your colors together too. But I'm just showing you different ways that you can do it. That makes it easy. Whatever's easier for you, really. Or if you have a white pencil, you can come in with a white pencil. A trick that I learned, if you want to save your expensive white pencils, when you're working on Create Space paper with, whether you're using the Polychromos, the Arteza pencils, anything that's not super, super soft and waxy like the Prismacolor, you can go get yourself like a white Crayola pencil and use that to blend, and it will do a fine job. It's not, and because it's so waxy and because it doesn't have a lot of pigment in it, because it's Crayola, it's not going to change your color very much. So there's another option. If you have a white Crayola pencil laying around, you can use that, like as your blender. Alright, I like that. I think that turned out pretty well. So now we're going to do the zigzag pattern. And I think we're going to kind of do it the same way. I'm going to put the darker colors on the outside and then leave like the inner parts kind of lighter, I think. Because I like the way this turned out. So on the outside here, kind of like this. So this is the middle color. And I'm leaving like the far left hand side of the zigzag on this side. I'm leaving it the lightest color. Not going over that section. And then over here we're going to do the rightmost side. We're going to leave lighter. I think we determined that this was the zigzag part. Right, so now I'm going to take the darker color again. Put just a small little amount right here along the edges, which will take me just a couple of seconds. She just looks so stinking happy to be beating the crap out of that rug, doesn't she? Just cracks me up. She's like, yay! Maybe her husband made her mad or something, so she's out there just taking it out on the rug. Come back with cobalt green. And up here, don't forget to put some, even though you can't see the whole thing, there's still going to be some color there. So I'm going to put that in there too. I don't want to forget about it. Come back in with the cobalt here. Alright, and then one more time with the turquoise, the light turquoise. And then once again, I'm going to go for my blender pencil and blend it all out. I think I may actually come in and make some of this beige. And we may do the inner little patterns the same teal color, and then we'll do the rest of it beige. And I think that'll probably be the best bet with this. I don't want to introduce too many new colors. I want to try to stick with the palette as much as I can. And I can already see a few places where there's not going to be much of a choice but to introduce some new colors, like the mouse's dress, because we clearly can't make that the teal color. We could do it the hunter green, which I think we may do. Depends on what color we make all the other stuff here, all the other leaves that we have left. Alright, so I think that's good for now. I'm going to come back in and do, actually what we can do for the center to make it kind of stand out but still be in our color palette is just skip the lighter color and go straight into the cobalt green. So that's what we can do. I'm just going to put the cobalt green directly in without any of the lighter color underneath. And we can use this helio turquoise to kind of differentiate it from the rest, which is kind of neat. One of the cool things about it. Alright, so then we can take our helio turquoise here and we can kind of do like this. We'll just kind of put it, like we'll make these little parts darker. These little corners. And then we'll fade it up into the cobalt green right about here. Kind of like that. I'm just kind of making this up as I go. Trying to find ways to get these colors in here and keep everything looking unique. Alright, so this will have some too, so we're going to gradually darken it up as we get over here. Same thing down here with this. Gradually darken it up. I'm going to have to sharpen my pencil. Start to make a mess here a little bit. And then come back in with the cobalt green and put it in the center. And all the little areas that we left just a little bit lighter. And you're not going to be able to tell a huge difference, but just enough that we're staying in our color palette and not everything isn't just like completely blending together. There we go. Alright, let me sharpen my blender pencil and we'll blend that out. And I see how the pattern in the middle looks just a little bit darker than the rest, but at the same time it looks about the same. That's kind of what I was hoping it would do. It worked out pretty well. Coming down here, we've got this part left to do. And that didn't turn out too bad. I kind of like that rug. Alright, now I'm not sure exactly where else I'm going to incorporate this color, but let's zoom out just a little and take a look at how the blue looks in our picture. I think that looks pretty good. I like it. We probably are going to need to put it somewhere else too, because it's just not enough, but we can figure that out a little bit later. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take a really small break, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to get to work on this tree. So bear with me just one moment. Alright everybody, I am back and it is now time to pick some colors for the tree over here, because that's where I think I'm going to start next. We need to do this tree and then the rest of the wood in some browns. So that is what we are going to do. I put these pencils back. Actually, I'm going to set these aside for now because we're going to come back to those. I'm going to pull some browns out. Let's see, we are going to do, decisions. We'll do raw umber for our light. We'll do walnut for our middle. And we'll do Van Dyke for our dark. I believe that will work. We are going to test them first though, so I'm going to flip this over onto the back. I'm going to use this edge up here, and we're just going to make sure that these colors will indeed work together. Yep, that looks fine to me. Looks like it'll definitely do the trick. Alright, so flip it back around here. We'll go to work on the tree. Alright, so we're going to start with the lightest color, which is the raw umber. And I'm just going to put a light coat all over everywhere. I better put my glove back on, that might help. I don't want to smear anything. The Polychromos don't really smear, but even when you're working with pencils that don't smudge and smear, it's always best to protect your page against your hand, because your skin has natural oils on it that even though you may not notice it like right away, over time it'll discolor your paper and it'll cause issues with your colored pencil. So it's always better to protect your hand. I mean, you don't have to do it. If you're not somebody who's going to come back and go through your page in, you know, a few years and look at everything you've done, then, you know, you don't really have to worry about it. But just here's a PSA. If you're going to work with soft pastels, always, 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 always protect your paper, because if you leave a fingerprint on the page, that soft pastel is going to show it, and you don't want that. It will stick more heavily to places on the paper where the oils from your skin have rubbed off. And I can't tell you how long it took me to train myself to not touch the page if I'm doing a page where I'm going to be using pastel. Okay, so we've got that on. That's all set. Now then, I need to figure out why my light dimmed so much. That's interesting. Didn't realize it had a setting that did that. Okay, so now I'm coming back with the, which one was it? The walnut is the second color. Okay, so this is where, you know, you can kind of use your own imagination and go wherever you want. But the artist has kind of given us a little bit of indication as to the parts of the tree that are going to be darker. So I'm going to kind of follow those. I'm going to use my walnut brown. I'm just going to kind of put it in the places here where she's given us some texture. So down here along the bottom. You can get all fancy with it and try to do like wood grain pattern and all that stuff. That's not something I've practiced a lot, and I hope someday that I'll be able to do that and show that to you guys, you know, how to make a tree look really like a tree. But not today, because I have not mastered that yet. I don't think I've mastered anything, really. But I don't feel confident enough in my ability to do it to try to teach it. So we'll do it this way for now. And I'm just putting this mid color all over where this little texture is. And we'll come back with our darkest color. And we'll kind of do the same thing that we're doing now, but just not so much of it. We'll put like less of it than we're putting of this. Matter of fact, I'm going to come and spread this out a little bit more. Just kind of make these areas a little bigger. And again, at this point, you want to be using a really light pressure, because we're not trying to fill in the tooth yet. We're just kind of putting color down to make sure we like where it is, that there's enough of whatever color we're using on there. I think that looks pretty good. So far, so good. Now I'm going to take the Van Dyke brown, which is going to be the darkest one of them all. And we're going to put that kind of in the same places, but not exactly. And I'm going to use a little bit harder pressure with it. So we're going to follow the artist here again. And we don't have to be, you know, super nice with it. We don't have to make it look really good, because we're going to come back in and go over everything again anyway. I'm just kind of going around things. You know what? I didn't put any of the walnut up here, so we need to do that. So now with this one, we're going to come back in. I am using a heavier pressure here just to make sure I get the color in, because we're going to blend around this and we don't really want it to disappear when we do that. Well, it's pretty good. So now I'm going to come back with the mid color, which is the walnut, and very lightly again, because it is still kind of a dark color. I'm just going to go over everywhere that we put the Van Dyke and just try to blend it down and out. When you get closer to your lighter areas, kind of let up on your pressure even more. And this is just kind of what we're doing here, is we're making it like sporadic. We're having like different colors, different shades of brown in sporadic places. And it's not going to look like a real tree. It's not going to look like real wood. But it's going to look interesting, which is basically all I'm trying to accomplish, is just to make it have some interest. And then we're going to come back in one more time with the raw umber. I'm going to sharpen it up though, so I can get down in there. And I'm going to use like a medium pressure at this point. I'm going to go in little ovals. And I don't want it to be too dark. I'm going to come back in with my blender pencil and blend all this together. So I don't really want this to be too dark, because this raw umber, the more of it you use, the brighter it gets, and I don't want it to be too bright. And I think what we're going to do is we may come in even with some gray. That's another little trick. If you go outside and you look at a tree isn't all brown. Tree bark isn't just brown. It's got some gray. It's probably got a little bit of black. So because we'll have so much tooth left over, I think that's what I'll do, is I'll find like a warm gray, and we'll come in and we'll put that over the top of all of these colors. And then when we blend it all out with the blender pencil, or a white pencil, or whatever pencil you choose to use, it will resemble tree bark. Alright, so let's do that. Let me get back in my Polychromos case here, and we'll find a warm gray. See, how dark do we want to go? Let's go with warm gray 4. I think that'll do. This should be plenty dark. And then I'm just going to start down here at the bottom. This pencil is already nice and sharp. I'm going to start down here at the bottom. I'm just going to use a, I don't know, sort of light, like a light hand. And just everywhere that I can still see some of the tooth of the paper being left behind, I'm just going to go over it with this color. And it's not going to make a huge difference, which is kind of important with this. You don't want to cover up all your brown with gray. You just kind of want to get it down in the places where you don't have any color yet, and it will kind of blend in there. Depending on how heavy-handed you were with your other colors, you may just be able to do like I did and go over the whole entire thing. I'll try to cover up as much of the tooth as I can without pushing too terribly hard. Alright, and then the final step is going to be to clean off my blender pencil, get rid of all the green that's left on there from doing the rug. And then I'm going to come in and I'm just going to blend everything together with a nice sharp blender. And this is going to mix up all the colors, brighten them up, cover up all the white space, or most of the white space. It won't cover all of it, but it'll get most of it. and kind of transform what we have right now that looks like a mess into a tree. If you don't have a blender pencil, like I said, you can just keep working with the colors that you have. You can use a white pencil, you can use a light gray pencil, anything that you have handy that will blend everything out. And I'm using a hard pressure here, so I'm probably going to have to sharpen my blender a couple times. But at this point, you should start being able to differentiate those colors, but instead of them looking so different from each other, they're all kind of melding together. Alright, time to sharpen it up a little, because I've got to get around the window and things, and I'll end up making a mess if I don't. Down inside the window. Underneath. And very carefully get around the edges here. We don't want to drag it into our green. And this is just one way to make a tree look interesting and just not solid brown. And there's 100 different ways to do this. You can go on YouTube and look up, I think every different colorist has a different way of doing this. Everybody. And this is just one way. I've got a few spots up here that still aren't covered, so I'm going to come back up and get those. And I'm happy with that. I think it looks like a tree, so we're going to leave it just like that. So we have these little, it looks like branches up here that were used to like build these little doodads. So I don't know what else to call them other than doodads. So I'm going to use these same colors in those, but I'm not going to like mix them all up like that. I'm going to pull them up just to this because honestly, to me this looks like a leaf. So that's how I'm going to color it. I'm going to put greens back up there. But this part is going to be brown. So I'm going in really light. Alright, and then I'm going to take my walnut, sharpen it up some, and we're just going to add a little bit of it to try to make things look more interesting. And these will probably be the only two colors that I put in this. I'm just going right along that edge with a really sharp pencil. Do the same thing up here, and then down underneath. I'll do the same thing here, just on the right hand side, over here on the right hand side. And then at the bottom, and then underneath. And we can come in with the Van Dyke and put some like at the bottom and like right here where there's a shadow, just to darken that shadow up some. And then put it down here at the bottom. Now if you want to, you can come back up and put it here. I don't think it's necessary. I think that's plenty of contrast. And that's really all I'm trying to achieve with these two colors. And then I'm going to come back in with the lightest color, which is the raw umber, and I'm going to go very, very lightly, because again, I don't want it to be too bright. We're just going to fill it in. And I don't even really need to get my blender pencil out for that, because it looks nice and cohesive, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Now we can come down and use the same colors on the little rug stand thingy. So we will go ahead and come in with the raw umber. I'm going to go all over. I'm going very, very light right now. Not too worried about whether or not I can see my pencil strokes. There we go. And I just realized we have the whole back of this rug we need to color. So that'll be the teal color too. That'll get a little bit more of it in there for us. Alright, then I'm going to take the walnut brown, whichever one it is, this one, and I'm going to go along the outside edges. And I'm going to put it mostly along here. I'm just going to leave a little sliver off to the left there. It doesn't have any of the walnut. And then down along the bottom, I'm going to put it everywhere. And then of course here we're going to put it to where it looks like there's a little shadow there, because of course there is. Not so much shadow on this side though. Alright, so here we're going to put it on the opposite side. And actually, let's do this all over the top. There we go. And we'll stick to the left side, actually. Because if the sun's coming down, you know, we don't want to have it opposite, because that would, if we put it over here, it would indicate that the sun's coming right at it. And honestly, I don't have any idea where the sun is in this picture. So we're assuming that it's coming like straight down. But either way, we're just gonna make sure that we have our shadows that are like, that make sense, even if they're not correct. And that's fine with me. It doesn't really make any difference to me if my shadows aren't perfect. Alright, so now I'm going to come back in with the Van Dyke brown, and I'm going to put it just where the darkest shadows would be. So like right here underneath the rug, where it's wrapped around the little pole. Maybe on the, like, outline the edge. I'm not even going to bother to pull it out. I'm just going to do a dark outline with a very sharp pencil. And then down here at the very, very, very bottom, where it's meeting the ground. And up here we're going to do it just right along the edge. And then down here underneath the pole, where there would be a shadow being cast. Alright, and then finally I'm going to come back in with my raw umber after I get it good and sharp. I shook the camera, I'm sorry about that. And I'm going to put a light layer and then blend it out with my blender pencil. So as you can tell, you really can use Polychromos in this book, and you really can make it look good. And you can do it with all the Create Space papers. It's just a lot of work. It is. It's really a lot of work to cover up all the white space on the page. And then the blender pencil, it's going to come in, blend everything together, cover up the white space, and it does take hard pressure. You probably could use Gamsol here. I haven't tried it on this type of paper, but you probably could do it. Alright, and then while we have these colors out, I'm going to go ahead and do the door in those same colors, and we'll probably come back up later and do some of these things too. But I think for today, because I already had you guys here for so long, we're just going to do the door and call it a day. Now this can be metallic, and so can the handle. We can do it black, we can do it metallic, we have a lot of options open. So, but for now, I'm just going to skip it. This we need to come back and do too in our original colors, because I completely forgot about that, and as well as this little piece over here, which I can't really tell if that's part of the mushroom or just like a hill. So I'll have to look at that a little more closely. I'm just using light pressure. And all we're going to do with this door is we're just going to kind of try to differentiate the planks from each other. And that's a pretty simple thing to do, and I'll show you how. Of course, this could have been any color. It could have been teal. It didn't have to be wood. You could go as far as to drawing in like little knots in the wood if you wanted to. Alright, so now I'm coming back in with walnut, and I am going to go along the edge back here first and foremost, because that's going to be in shadow for sure, where it meets the wall. And I'm going to go along each little plank here, and we're going to just barely pull it out, barely. Very, very light pressure out toward the center of the plank. Same thing here, we're going to just start like this. This isn't really going to cast a shadow, so you don't really have to worry so much about drawing a shadow around that. You can if you want to, but since it's not really going to cast a shadow, it's flat against the door, it's not necessary. Same thing here, I'm going to pull this out very, very lightly toward the center of the plank, because remember, we're going to come back in here with our lightest color again too, and that's going to brighten it up, so we don't need too much. Same thing over here. We're just going to keep doing it for every single one. And if it looks a mess right now, don't worry, it won't. Down along the bottom. I'm going to get this side too, like that. And you can use this with anything that you have that has wood planks on it. Even if something you're coloring doesn't have wood planks on it, you can just grab yourself a ruler and very lightly with a graphite pencil you can sketch them in, and then you can do this. So if you have like a blank wall that you're coloring, you can always just come in and add some really simple, easy wood planks. You can do a walkway with them. Of course, then you'd really have to worry about perspective a little, which is something else that I'm not that good at, but it's doable. And then of course here, but because this one's tucked so far back and because this little ridge pokes out because it's like tucked in there, I'm going to color this entire plank with the walnut. Because this is casting a shadow on it. Alright, finally I'm going to take the Van Dyke, and we're going to use even less of this, but I'm going to get it good and sharp, and I'm going to go around the edges. We're just basically outlining now. So I'm going to go around the edge, and all we're going to try to do is give our planks a little bit more differentiation from each other. So I am outlining the original lines that were here, kind of trying to cover them up, but make them a little bit whiter. At the same time, I'm going along the bottom with a little curved motion, just like the doors are, or the planks, not the doors, the planks on the door. up and around the top. Make sure I have everything the way I want it, like that. Okay, so now, because this is recessed, I'm going to take this darkest brown and I'm going to pull it out just a little bit more right here in this area. It's going to help it look a little more recessed, just the way it was drawn. Okay, the final step, I'm going to take my raw umber again and very lightly, I'm going to fill in everything that we have left behind. And you don't want to press very hard because you don't want to cover up those other colors. You want those to be there. As a matter of fact, even this light pressure, it looks like I'm going to have to come back in and go over it again, which is fine. That's fine. We'll just come back in and darken it up. No big deal. Trial and error a lot of times. That's all this is about. And I think I'm going to come back in with my walnut, and I'm just going to darken things up just a little bit. So we're going to do the same thing we did with it before. Go down each side of the plank and drag it out toward the center. And then pull it up just a little bit too at the bottom. And run a little bit darker back here because of course this is going to be recessed like we discussed, like I already said. So there's going to be more shadow back on these planks. There we go. Get our dark color back in. Alright, and then one more time with the raw umber. I'm not putting much more, just a little bit. And then when I come in with the blender pencil and I go in an up and down motion, it should kind of keep all those colors exactly where I put them. And we'll see what happens. So I'm going to get it good and sharp, and we're going to do one plank at a time. We're going to start on this side and just kind of go up and down. And it's going to brighten up the colors, mix them all together. And this is such an easy thing to do. And once you guys have practiced it a few times, you're going to love doing it on other pictures. I'm going to say, oh, there's a blank wall in this picture. That's going to be boring. Let me draw some wood. Or you could like do it the other way. Instead of having it going vertical like this, you could turn it horizontally and make it shiplap, which is basically the same thing. And there you go. There you have your wooden door. Alright guys, I've had you here for at least an hour now, so I think at this point we are going to call this episode done. Oop, wrong way. We're going to call this episode finished. We are probably going to come back, when we come back to the next episode, and do back behind the rug. We're going to put the teal back in there. We are going to take the same browns that we used for this, and we're going to do like the wood planks that are up here, because I'm pretty sure that this is going to be wood. We've got a wooden door up here. We can practice the planks a little more there, just not quite as in depth because they're so tiny. And then we can decide what we're going to do with like the little patio here, the little ledges on the windows. We may also do those in the wood. I'm not quite sure yet. But that was a pretty productive day. We got the tree done. We've got some wood panels made on the door here. We've got quite a bit finished, so we'll come back next time and do a little more. I hope you guys are enjoying this color along, even though I am the slowest colorist on the face of the planet, and we'll probably have a dozen episodes before it's done. But if you liked it, please give it a thumbs up and help other people find it. If you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and do so, and then click the bell next to the subscribe button. As always, you can look down in the description of this video and find helpful links to things like everything that you're seeing in this video, the coloring book, the pencils, the pencil sharpener, the coloring glove, all those things will be down in that description. And until next time, everybody, thank you very much for watching, and happy coloring.